Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
You're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy. Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
Timo Vuorensola. Did I get that as close as possible?
That is really good, actually. I have to say that is impressive.
Well, I am scared of the Finns. You guys fly under the radar. You guys killed all the Nazis. You killed all the Soviets. You have. It was all done by a Munchkin who was 5 feet 3 inches, the White Death. You know,
Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't made a movie about him yet. You know,
There is actually, I'm not working on it, but there is a Finnish filmmaker who is working on the film right now. So it is coming.
well, I'm looking forward to that. But right now we are talking about Altered, and I have one very special request from you.
Sure.
Stop giving governments ideas on how to take over the world. Europe has been destroyed for 1,500 years from infighting and 2 world wars in the 20th century. And here you're like, hey, how about this for the future?
I know. I already, when I did Iron Sky, when I was like, yeah, Nazis on the moon and, populist governments taking over. It's like, that was 2012 when it all was, it didn't look like that. And now like, oh shit, it's all coming true. The only thing we're missing is Nazis on the moon. But it's a tricky thing to be a science fiction filmmaker, because sometimes you hit the the bullseye, and that's always a little bit concerning.
Because they're taking notes.
Yeah, they are. I know. That's what they're doing.
I often joke we were so worried in the United States about 1984 coming true that we forgot about A Brave New World, and they somehow combined the two.
That's well said. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's a trick about writing science fiction overall. I mean, that's the thing, is like you'll take something from the air and from the zeitgeist and put it together, and if you're even a little bit good in your job, you probably get good amount of predictions quite right, and that's always something interesting.
Yeah. Next film, just show clips from what's it called, WEF and Who, and see their plans for cybernetics, and that's just the movie itself. But I tease enough. We are talking about your latest film, Altered, coming to the United States from Wellgo USA in theaters and on VOD November 21st. We do want to congratulate you on this alternate reality of those that are genetically enhanced versus those that aren't, and the divide between the haves and have-nots that are able to do those advancements.
Yeah, I mean, that's what was the topic of the thing, and that's something that I found myself thinking about, and have been thinking about quite a lot. The more I look at, let's say, technological advancements, which is going quite fast, and that creates a rift, and also there is a divide that is getting bigger and bigger between people, and I think that was something that I wanted to tap into, but obviously from a science fiction point of view, so presenting a case that is not yet reality necessary, but it's something that we are moving towards that direction, bioengineering and stuff like that, definitely.
When you get to a point where you've noticed these trends and then you put it on paper for a script, and then all of a sudden, you finally get to get the camera out and start shooting. Are there moments where you're like, I like this aspect, but it doesn't quite fit the narrative, or the shot isn't just developing? Like, how do you decide on what's finally in and what's finally out from inception to final production?
Well, I think in general with the movie, you have to make as good plan as it is humanly possible, which is not usually a very good plan. It's an approximation of a plan, and then you execute it, and then I guess that's where your sort of intuition as a filmmaker comes on there, when you are there with the camera and you're sort of looking at the things. This is how it's going to be, and this is not going to work. And really the creative aspect, I mean, it's a creative process altogether, but I think that's what we are sort of hard to do, so to say. It's just get that moment when we get the actor in front of the camera saying these lines and feeling whether it works or not. And then of course there is the big art of editing, which happens afterwards, which depending on, let's say that you lay out some kind of a plan, world changes, things change, then of course you have to react to that on the editing bay. And nowadays you can do quite a lot. But yeah, that's how it is. I mean, you have to just try to guess as close as you can, and then go with the intuition.
Well, you have an incredible international cast: Richard Blake, Tom Felton, Aggie K. Adams. You have Balkans and Russians and Finns, and you have all of Eastern Europe and a couple of Brits in there. Congratulations on mixing it up a little
Yeah.
bit.
It is really something that, and I've actually liked doing very multinational films all through my career. I started with Iron Sky, obviously, which was heavily, Germany, Finland, and UK and US, and went from there. I did a film in China, which obviously had more of the Chinese and sort of Asian people, Asian cast over there, and all of these. Altogether, like I like the energy that international cast and also crew brings to the set. I mean, it's not without problems also, because there is a communication issues, there's this and that, but ultimately I do find it very interesting to be able to work with quite an international group of people.
What I enjoy in your film, especially going back to Iron Sky, is, and with this one, you're able to find the balance of action and humor and make sure that, even though the topics are heavy, there's still levity in there that we can laugh along at moments. We lean in for certain moments, and you find this balance of humor, action, and these terrifying concepts that more than likely will become reality.
Yeah, thank you. And I do think that that's something that I maybe is my sort of speciality that I bring on board. That I do always find myself trying to look at the sort of the funny side of things, or the darkly funny side of things, so that it doesn't get too serious, because world is full of very serious films, very serious, and I think that's one of the things which sometimes bugs me with science fiction, is that science fiction tends to go lean very, very serious about itself. And I find always myself thinking, like, what, this is a world that I created. It has both sides. It has the light, it has the fun, it has that side, and it also has the darkness and the grittiness. And that also travels well with when I to the way that I like to cast. And obviously, working with Tom Felton, I was able to find both of those things. So I was able to find a really, really talented actor who's also able to bring a lot of his sort of heart and his comedy also on the screen, like comedy timing and all that. And I do find it more natural way to work than trying to go way too serious.
Also the fact that you're a musician, do you help with the score itself, or do you pull back and let somebody else take those reins? Because,
See, this is, yeah,
industrial
that's,
music would definitely fit the tone of this film.
it would, but I kind of do like avant-garde noise industrial, which is absolutely unusable in anything actually anywhere. But my involvement with the music always begins very heavy. Like I'm very, very involved. And at that point, I also realized that actually this is an artist who has, perfected their craft for 20, 30, 40, whatever years. I better give them the way to express themselves, and try to step back a little bit. But because I have my sort of affinity with music, I do find myself maybe micromanaging a little bit too much on the music. And I always find that when I stop that, that's when the score really starts to take shape. It doesn't mean that I don't have my input on it, but like the micromanaging is something that I found myself, especially when it comes to music and kind of sound design, to be a little bit too much there. And I try to step back and give the artist a little bit of free rein with that.
Well, your sound is wonderful. Your cinematography is beautiful. Especially for an independent science fiction film coming out from Logo USA. You know, we've kind of gotten to the point, thanks to technology and especially for science fiction, that we don't necessarily need the room full of computers to get all the imaging done the way we want to. We can actually do it on a budget. Going from Iron Sky, where the technology isn't where it was then, to where it is now, how, from the special effects side and from the visuals, how has that become easier for you in the editing process in comparison to if you had made this film in 2012?
I think one of the important things is the communication. still the situation is same. I need a good artist to be able to produce something. The possibility that one artist can do nowadays is much wider. So you have a chance to your programs, your machines, your abilities are much more there. But still, there needs to be one artist whom I communicate with. I think the communication itself has become a better, because back in the days it was a bit of a trick. I had to be quite physically present there, going through and discussing with certain elements. And I have to say that that's something that many, when a kind of a, I want to say, like a creative person like me, without very much of a technological detailed knowledge, goes and starts to discuss with the VFX artist, that easily becomes a little bit of a muddled discussion. You need a very good visual effects coordinator, I mean, a supervisor in between, who is able to translate what I want to what is the language that the visual effects company speaks. I think that's one of the things. The other thing is like visual effects production, especially when you really want to get the best bang out of that is you're able to fragment it a little bit more, which means that you're able to put together a team that is quite international and is still controlled by one visual effects supervisor, somebody who's really controlling that. But it's you're able to create sort of smart solutions on some of the ways on how to produce some of the more trickier shots. I haven't used AI in, for example, in visual effects production yet at all, and I think that's something that a lot of people are sort of predicting is going to take over, and maybe so. But in my end, it still feels that the human artist is the only one that I can really rely on, coming up with the kind of a world I want to, and I prefer to stay that way, at least in some shape or form.
I love it. Timo Vuorensola, as close as I'm going to get it and finish. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Altered is fantastic. You're reminding us why big government is not for the people, it's for the government. I thank you for this feature. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully we get to do the next one in person again, November 21st in select theaters and on VOD from Wellgo USA. This is definitely one I want a Blu-ray copy to put on my shelf.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Nice to talk with you.